محمد وآل محمد.
ایک دفعہ پہ صلوات پڑھ لیجیے.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
شبیر ڈھونڈتا ہے اکبر کہاں گرا ہے. شبیر ڈھونڈتا ہے اکبر کہاں گرا ہے. بیٹے کے قاتلوں سے یہ باپ پوچھتا ہے اکبر کہاں گرا ہے. شبیر ڈھونڈتا ہے اکبر کہاں گرا ہے. اتنا ضعیف ہو گیا آتا نہیں نظر، آتا نہیں نظر. اکبر کی لاش سے یوں ہی کہتا گزر گیا ہے اکبر کہاں گرا ہے. شبیر ڈھونڈتا ہے اکبر کہاں گرا ہے. خم آ گیا کمر میں جاتا نہیں چلا، جاتا نہیں چلا. بازو کے بل چلا ہونٹوں پہ یہ صدا ہے اکبر کہاں گرا ہے. شبیر ڈھونڈتا ہے اکبر کہاں گرا ہے. اٹھنے کی کوششوں میں جاموں کے بل گرا، جاموں کے بل گرا. ایک کانپتی آواز میں عابد نے جب سنا ہے اکبر کہاں گرا ہے. شبیر ڈھونڈتا ہے اکبر کہاں گرا ہے. آیا جو پاس لاش کے آتا نہیں یقین، آتا نہیں یقین. برچھی پہ ہاتھ ہے مگر شبیر سوچتا ہے اکبر کہاں گرا ہے. شبیر ڈھونڈتا ہے اکبر کہاں گرا ہے. شبیر ڈھونڈتا ہے اکبر کہاں گرا ہے. بار دیگر صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اے چاند کربلا کے تو نے تو دیکھے ہوں گے، اترے تھے اس زمیں پر عرش بری کے تارے اے چاند کربلا کے، اے چاند جلوہ گر ہے ہاشم کا چاند یہاں پر، خیرات روشنی کی لے لیجیو یہاں سے، اے چاند، اے چاند اس زمین پر رکھیو ہمیشہ ٹھنڈک، سوتے جو ہے یہاں پر زہرا کے ہیں یہ پیارے، اے چاند کربلا کے، تو نے تو دیکھے ہوں گے اترے تھے اس زمین پر عرش بری کے تارے، اے چاند مارے گئے یہیں پر بے دردی و ستم سے، مسلم کے دونوں پیارے زینب کے دونوں بیٹے، اے چاند کربلا کے، پامال ہو رہی تھی قاسم کی لاش رن میں، عباس اور سرور چنتے تھے ان کے ٹکڑے، اے چاند کربلا کے، بازو کٹے یہیں پر عباس با وفا کے، اذن دغا نہ پایا پانی بھلا نہ پائے، اے چاند اس سرزمین پہ گزرا سرور پہ یہ بھی صدمہ، سینے پہ کھائی برچھی ہم شکل مصطفیٰ نے، اے چاند کربلا کے، پانی پلانے لائے ایک محلقہ کو سرور، کیا ذبح حرملا نے تیرے ستم لگا کر، اے چاند کربلا کے، گردن چھدی پسر کی بازو چھدا پدر کا، دونوں تڑپ تڑپ کر پیاسے جہاں سے گزرے، اے چاند اس بن میں ایک بچی بابا کو ڈھونڈتی تھی، بکھرے ہوئے پڑے سب سر بریدہ لاشیں، پھر یہ بھی تو نے دیکھا وہ غم رسیدہ بچی سینے پہ سو رہی تھی، بے سر پدر سے لپٹے، اے چاند بازو بندھے یہیں پر، پہلے پہل حرم کے اس سرزمین سے نکلے، سجاد سر جھکائے، اے چاند کربلا کے بار دیگر سلام.
Please welcome smart Sayyid, Shaan Rizvi. With a loud salawat par Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
برائے خوشنود امام دعوانا بلند تر صلوات.
محمد وآلہ
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، فاطر السماوات والأرضين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
ولعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المبين وهو أصدق الصادقين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لقد جاءكم رسول من أنفسكم عزيز عليه ما عنتم حريص عليكم بالمؤمنين الرؤوف الرحيم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we reflect on the last few days, we realize that we are getting closer and closer to that day of Ashura, now the 8th night of Muharram. And one of the points for reflection to think about for us is that this event, which we refer to as not a historical event, but a reality that if we think about it, if we reflect on the sacrifices of the martyrs of Karbala, if we reflect on the movement of Hussein, then it has the potential to change our life. And that is something that is why we keep coming back to this story over and over again. One of the things the ulama say is that Karbala is more than, as we said, more than a historical event. It's a reality that's still true today. They refer to it as a school, the Maktab of Karbala. They say that if you study the events of Karbala, you see that Karbala is a school of Islam. All the events of Karbala, all the events leading to Karbala, the stance that Hussein took, the correspondence that he had with the people of Kufa, the letters that he wrote to his family, the sacrifices that he encouraged his family to make, the sacrifices that he himself made. All of these things, if you want to see Deen, if you want to see Islam in one time, one place, crystallized, then look at Karbala. Look at the school of Karbala. If you want to learn Islam, if you want to learn Deen, then look at the Maktab of Karbala. And it is with that in mind that we come back to this story. Because one of the points that we reflect on in our own lives, the point is that Karbala is a school of transformation also. That if we bring this message, if we bring this ideology into our own lives, this revolutionary ideology to our lives, then it can change us. First and foremost, it will change us, and then maybe inshallah it will also change those around us. One of the points that we want to reflect on is that, see, there were all kinds of people in Karbala. There were all kinds of people who surrounded Imam Hussein. And again, I'm telling you about the history. Now you think about how it applies to your life. There were all kinds of people who wrote to the Imam. There were all kinds of people who joined the Imam. There were different kinds of people who opposed the Imam. It wasn't a school limited to just men or women or elders or kids. One of the beautiful things of Karbala was that you had everyone. Everyone was present there. And people took different stances during that time. So you had those, as I said, who said that, Hussein, if we are killed in your way, then we pray to God that we are resurrected 1,000 times so that we could be killed with you 1,000 times. Then you have those who said that, Hussein, we would like to join you in this caravan. We would like to join you on this journey towards Karbala, but we cannot. But take our horses instead, and maybe these horses will be of use to you. We have those people that they were 80 years old, 90 years old, and when they heard about the message of Hussein, they found a way to sneak out of the city of Kufa when there was a curfew so that they could be with their Mawla. We have people like Abdullah ibn Umar, the son of the second Khalifa, who says that, oh Hussein, right, we believe in you, we support you, but don't go to Karbala because we see that you'll face a difficult ending there. Go instead to this other land in Yemen and you will be safe there. Your family will be safe and people will follow you there. We have others such as Abdullah ibn Abbas who say that don't take your family and your friends along with you to Karbala. If you need to go, then go by yourself. And Hussein says, what? وَمَا أَرَى إِلَّا الْخُرُوجَ بِالْأَهْلِ وَالْوُلْدِ. I don't see any option except to take my family with me to Karbala. We have those like Abdullah ibn Zubair who say that, oh Hussein, stay in Mecca, don't go to Karbala. If you stay here, we will support you in Mecca. We will come to your assistance here. But Hussein knows that not everyone is telling the truth. Not everyone is being honest to him. So what does he say? He gives a sermon to the people of Mecca before he departs for Karbala. He says, "O people of Mecca, death has been destined for the descendants of Adam alayhi salam, just like the necklace on the neck of a young girl. My passion to be reunited with my ancestors is like the passion of Yaqub to see Yusuf again. And there is a battlefield that I am moving towards where my organs will be severed by wolves between Nineveh and Karbala. And so they will fill their empty bellies with my flesh." Imam Hussein, he knows all these people are telling him along the way, don't go to Karbala. Don't go in that direction. Don't fulfill this journey that you've set to embark upon. If you are going to go, then don't take your family. If you're going to go, then go somewhere else. If you are going to go, then maybe you should make bay'ah to Yazid. He says, what? لَوْ لَمْ يَكُنْ مَلْجَأً وَلَا مَأْوَى لَمَا بَايَعْتُ يَزِيدَ ibn Mu'awiyah. That if there was no place on this earth for me to flee to, if there was no safe haven, then I would still not give bay'ah to Yazid ibn Mu'awiyah. So Hussein realizes at this point that in order to save Islam, he needs to take a stand. In order to save Deen, there needs to be a stand that is taken. And that is what sparks the movement of Hussein towards this land of Karbala. Please recite salawat. We've been talking about aspects of the prophetic seerah. See, one of the things that we want to make clear is the Holy Quran says, يَوْمَ نَدْعُ كُلَّ أُنَاسٍ بِإِمَامِهِمْ. The day of resurrection, the day of Qiyamah, is the day when every person will be called forward by their Imam. By their Imam. Who is their Imam? Well, we tend to think of their Imam as, for example, we say that as Shias we have 12 Imams, the Sunnis, they might have a different Imam. Right? No, this is not the meaning of Imam. Right? You've just memorized some facts. What is an Imam? An Imam is anyone that you follow, that you take into your life as your leader, as your guide. That is your Imam. Is it possible for a politician to be an Imam? Yes. Some people, they follow, right? Who? Mr. Trump, Joe Biden. Is it possible for a celebrity to be somebody's Imam? Yes. Somebody could follow a celebrity too. Anyone that you've given your mind to, that you've given your heart to, that you follow without questioning, without chuno chera, as they say in Farsi, that is your Imam. Anybody that you follow in your life, that you've taken as your guide, that you've taken as your leader, that is your Imam. يَوْمَ نَدْعُ كُلَّ أُنَاسٍ بِإِمَامِهِمْ. The day that we will call each of mankind by their Imam. You might say to yourself, well, how is it that a celebrity could be an Imam? We take some of the celebrities that are popular today, people like who? People like Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple. You take a singer like Taylor Swift. You take a DJ like DJ Khaled. And these are some of the people that the young people look up to. There's not a lot of young people today because it's a Monday night, but these are some examples that I like to give. Why? Because the day that each person will be called with their Imam. Now, is there something wrong if we take Steve Jobs, if we take a DJ Khaled, if we take a Taylor Swift as our Imam? What is the issue with that? You might ask yourself. Well, the issue with that is that, can we say that there's nothing good about this person? Well, of course there's something good about them because, right, they've been given some talent. They are a makhluk of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you say that there's nothing good about Steve Jobs, well, I would beg to differ because look, the man was clearly a genius. He founded Apple Computers. right? One of the biggest companies, right, in the world. There was something good in him that he was able to come up with this technology. But the difference is what? That someone like Steve Jobs, someone like a DJ Khaled, someone like a Taylor Swift, right? They're good at one thing. Their leadership is on one thing. They are an example in one thing, right? A Steve Jobs is a leader in what? He's a leader in, for example, his field of technology. Taylor Swift is what? Maybe she has a good voice, right? All of these people, they are leaders in one thing. Right? If you look at their lives, right, you see some issues with them. For example, if you look at the life of Steve Jobs, you know that, for example, he was someone that, he had a daughter outside of his marriage that was his own daughter, but for the longest time, he refused to admit that this was my daughter. Right? He said that, right, I don't know this girl, right? She's someone else. Right? So for a long time, if you read about his life, right, he refused to acknowledge her as his own daughter, although she was, right? But it was outside the marriage, and so he didn't want to recognize it. So he said, this is someone else. Right? So when you learn the stories of these people, you see that there's always some challenge, some difficulty in their life. Right? There's something that doesn't sit right. But if you want to see that role model for yourself, if you want to see that imam for yourself, if you want to see that example, that uswatul hasana for yourself, right, then you have to come to the household of the Holy Prophet. If you want to see that perfect example, that not just in their family life, not just in their knowledge, not just in their piety, not just in their taqwa, in all aspects of their life, if you want to see that perfect example, then you go to the house of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Please just say salawat. Go to the house of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. If you want to see that example, that imam who is a complete imam for you, that example who is that perfect example, right? And I'm speaking to the youth today that if you want to take someone in your life who is going to be an example for your life, then go to Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Because every celebrity, every pop culture hero, every athlete that you find, there will always be something wrong with him. If you look in their life, if you study their life, there will be something that doesn't sit right. Some aspect in which they have done something very wrong. But you need a role model. You need an example to follow. You need someone to look at in your life and say, I want to be like him. I want to live my life like this person. Right? I want this person to be my imam. Why? Because on the day of judgment, each person is raised with their imam. Who is our imam? Right? Who is our imam? It's not just a matter of saying that in Sunday school I memorized that Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, right? That you memorized. If someone was to wake you up in the middle of the night and say, who is your role model? Right? In the middle of the night, in your deep sleep, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., if you are in your deepest sleep and I come to you and I wake you up and I shake you and I say, who is your leader? Who is your role model? What would you say? Would you say Amir al-Mu'mineen? Would you say Prophet Muhammad? Right? Because that is right. You're at your deepest level. Right? There's no veil, there's no parda. If someone were to go inside of you and say, at your deepest core, in your essence, who are you following in your life? Right? You have to have the right answer. Right? That is the haqiqat. There's a haqiqat there. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The story of Abu Dhar al-Ghafari is very interesting. This is someone that as Shias we look up to him because he was one of the few people who was with Rasulullah and he stood with Amir al-Mu'mineen. Right? When the first Khalifa and second Khalifa and third Khalifa did what they did, there were some people who from the very beginning, they were with Amir al-Mu'mineen. And Abu Dhar al-Ghafari was one of those people that they say that he was such a problem for the Khulafa that they had to send him to Syria. And because of that, they exiled him back, right, towards Medina, holding on to, they tied his body to a animal, right, maybe a camel, and the camel dragged his body all the way back to Medina and he died along the way. And this was Abu Dhar. So Abu Zar was an interesting person because why? He was from a tribe in the Arabs that was known to be a little bit rough. He wasn't like a very, intellectual, like very cultured, very polished, very akhlaqi person. He was actually a little bit like rough. Okay, so what do I mean by that? It's like, have you ever seen those guys who like ride the motorcycles, right? And they have the tattoos, right? He was kind of like a little bit like rough, right? Before Islam. This is who he was known as. In fact, his whole tribe was known to be kind of like this, thieves. So they were known to be, actually their tribe was known to be thieves, right? Bandit, we will call them bandits. Let's say this, that when people were traveling through the desert, they were known to basically, as a group was traveling, they would kind of attack them. They would rob them, right? This is what the tribe of Abu Zar was known for. So this is kind of the person that he was. Now, at the time of the Prophet, as the Prophet's message was spreading in Mecca, all of the leaders of the Quraysh, they got together. They said that we have to stop this man somehow, because everything that he's preaching, this inqilab, this revolution that he's bringing, it goes against our status. It goes against our standing. So what did they do? They went to Abu Talib. They said, Abu Talib, this nephew of yours, right? You have to stop him, right? You have to say something to him. Okay, that didn't really work, right? Abu Talib didn't agree to this, and so they had to come up with another plan. So during that time, the people would come for the pilgrimage to Mecca, even before the time of, right, the Prophet, time that he announced Islam, right? Hajj was something that people had done. So they came to Mecca, and the Quraysh got together and they said, we have to say something to the people about the Holy Prophet. Right? We have to put some propaganda in their mind about him. So what did they say? They had different things. Some of them said that Holy Prophet is a magician. Some of them said that the Prophet, he's just a poet. What he's reciting is just poetry. It's not like a real thing. Right? This Quran is just poetry. Some of them said that the Prophet, he's a madman. He's disturbed. Right? He's not like well psychologically. Something is wrong with him. So they came up with all of these insults, all of these things to say to the Holy Prophet. Eventually, they agreed that let's say that he is a magician, that you shouldn't go near him because if you get near this person named Muhammad, maybe he'll put a spell on you. Right? So don't go away from him because he has some power where he can put a spell on you. This is what they said about the Holy Prophet. All the people who were coming into Mecca for the pilgrimage, right, they stationed themselves outside. They said that, let us stop ourselves outside, and everyone who's coming in, let's warn them about who? Prophet Muhammad. So they said that we're going to tell people that he is a magician. If you get near him, be careful. Why? Because he'll put a spell on you. He's familiar with black magic. Right? Because they saw that there was something different about the Prophet. Right? So they were intimidated. He said, don't go near this man. Now, Abu Dhar al-Ghafari was one of those people that was going to Mecca. They stopped him. They said, Abu Dhar, right? When you go into Mecca, there's a person named Muhammad. Don't go near him, right? He knows magic. He will put something on you, right? Don't go near him. Abu Dhar said, okay, he was kind of tough. He said, I can handle myself, right? So let me go. So he goes in Mecca for the pilgrimage, and during that time, he finds out where the Prophet lives. And he goes and he finds the Prophet's house, and he, I'm not sure if the door was open or how he got in, but he went inside the Prophet's home, and he sees the Prophet is in the courtyard and he's asleep, and he has like a cloth over his head. So Abu Zar Ghafari goes and he wakes up the Holy Prophet. He says, Assalamu alaikum. Prophet says, Wa alaikum assalam. He says, can you tell me a little bit, right, about yourself, about this message that you're preaching? So the Prophet stands up and he begins to recite the Holy Quran for Abu Zar. They say that Abu Zar was so mesmerized by seeing the Prophet in person, by hearing the words of Quran from the mouth of the Holy Prophet, that he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Please raise Allah. Said, I testify there's no God but God, and that Muhammad is the messenger. Right? So what was it about this character of the Holy Prophet that someone like Abu Zar, someone from a difficult background, right, can meet him and have this experience with him that he sees his essence, he sees his character, he sees the Quran he's reciting, and he accepts Islam. And what was it about the Prophet? There's another person that I want to tell you about whose name is Zayd. Zayd ibn Haritha. Right? And later he has a son who's named Osama, who's also a very famous person at the time of the Prophet. Now the interesting thing, this is really mind-blowing, right? If you look at the character of the Prophet. Who was Zayd? He was a slave, right? He was a slave who was owned by Hazrat Khadija salamullahi alayha, because we know Hazrat Khadija was very wealthy. So she owned some property, and she gave this slave around the time of her marriage to the Prophet. She actually gave this slave as a gift to the Holy Prophet. Okay, now, there's a separate discussion about slavery in Islam. I'm not going to talk about that, but right, just understand there was a slave right at the time named Zayd. Hazrat Khatija, she gives a gift to Rasulullah. She says, take the slave, now you own him. Okay, so now Prophet Muhammad, he owns this slave named Zayd, who is around the age of, he's a young boy, he's 14, 15 years old. Okay, so now he's in the service of the Holy Prophet. He is the ghulam of Rasulullah. Now, Zayd, right, his family did not live in Mecca. They lived some place far away. In fact, they had lost track of where he was. Now, they say that during the time, a little bit after the Prophet's marriage to Khadija, some of the family members of Zayd, his father and his uncle, they were visiting the Holy Kaaba. And they run into Zayd there, right? They say that this is the boy from our family, right, who has left, and we've been looking for him. So they go back to their tribe and they tell Zayd's father and the uncle of Zayd that we saw Zayd near the Holy Kaaba. So the father and the uncle, because they didn't know where he was, immediately they leave their town, which was away from Mecca, right? So they travel to Mecca and they ask around, and eventually they find, right, their son Zayd. And they go to Prophet Muhammad, who was with Zayd, and they say that, this is the boy that, right, has left our tribe. We need him back. So Prophet Muhammad, he says that, Zayd, do you know these two men? Zayd looks at them and he says, yes, this is my father, my real father, and my uncle. So Prophet Muhammad says, Zayd, if this is your father, well, you know me, and obviously you know your father. And I know that I own you, right? You are my slave, and I have come into ownership of you. But I'm going to give you a choice. If you would like to stay with me as your owner, you can stay with me. If you would like to leave me and go back to your family, then I will free you. Right? There's nothing. You don't owe me anything. Right? You can go. Right? I will free you. Zayd says that, "O Muhammad, you are to me like my own father and mother, and I would never choose anyone above you." The father of Zayd hears this. He says, "Woe to you." And he says, "Zayd, how can you say this? That I am your own father? Will you choose slavery over freedom? Will you choose another man over your own father?" Zayd says that I have seen things from this man, Muhammad, such that I can never choose anybody above him. Please recite the salawat. So what? So this man, this boy, 15 years old, instead of returning to his family, he says that I will stay as a ghulam of Hazrat Muhammad. I will stay as the slave of Prophet Muhammad. Why? Because there's something I've seen in this man that I haven't seen in anybody. What I have seen in this man does not allow me to leave him. What I have seen in this man makes me be around him all the time. What I've seen in this man makes me put him above my own father. Makes me put him above my own father. Now, what was it about the character of the Holy Prophet that even a freed slave would choose the Prophet over his own father, over his own blood. He says that I'm not returning home, I'm going to stay in your service. What was it? Who was this man that a person says that I would rather be a slave to him than a free man in my own house? There was something there. There was clearly something there. There's an expression that Imam Khomeini uses regarding the Holy Prophet. Please recite a salawat. This is the aspect of the Holy Prophet's life that I would like to explore today, right? Because we're trying to understand, right? Because again, Imam Hussein says that bid'ah has been introduced into my religion by these people, and I'm trying to revive the ummah of my Jad, the ummah of the Holy Prophet. Right? Everything he's doing, he's trying to revive the ummah of the Holy Prophet. Now, Imam Khomeini uses a very subtle expression. He says that the Holy Prophet, with the people of Mecca and Medina and Arabia that he went to, he was like what? A loving father to them. Rather, he was more than a loving father. Right? His maqam for the people was like greater than a very loving father. He was that manifestation of love. Please recite salawat. Please recite one more salawat. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. The Holy Quran says about the Prophet that we sent you as a rahmah for the alameen, as a mercy for alameen, not just for men, not just for women, not just for Muslims, not just for Shia, but for all of makhluqat, for all of mankind. As what? As a rahmah, as a mercy. So Imam Khomeini says what? That one of the secrets to the Prophet's success was that he was a loving father to all the people. In fact, there's a narration in which the Holy Prophet says, Al-Hubbu Asasi, that the foundation, the essence of my work in this society is love, is hub, is muhabbat. Meaning what? That the mission of the Prophet was rooted in love for people. Everything the Prophet does, everything the Prophet acts upon, right, is rooted in what? Love for someone. Now, love for each thing, not because of that thing, because that thing was a manifestation, was a makhluk, was a manifestation of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khomeini says something very interesting. He says that, see, if the Prophet looked at a rock, see, if you and I were to look at a rock, we would say, this is a rock. It's nothing. I just walk by it. You don't think about it. Holy Prophet, if you were to look at a rock, you would look at that rock with love. Why? Because this rock was a makhluk of God. It was one of the makhlukat, right? So he saw the connection between the rock and the Creator, and therefore he looked at that rock with love. Even if we were to look at a rock, he would look at it with love. Even his interaction with the kuffar, right, with the non-Muslims, with the Quraysh, at the deepest level, deepest level, his interaction with everyone was rooted in what? Muhabbat, love. Okay. He says what? He says even the Prophet's interaction with who? Abu Jahl was what? Rooted in love. If the Prophet were to kill Abu Jahl, right, even that killing was with love. Why? Because he knew that if Abu Jahl were to live longer, that azab he would bring upon himself was even more. That akhirah for himself would be even worse. So the death of Abu Jahl is better than the existence of Abu Jahl. Even the death of Abu Jahl, even the killing of Abu Jahl is an act of love from the Prophet. The people that he killed, some of them, it's true that he fought battles, he had to kill people. Some of the Yahud of Medina that he fought with, That killing was an act of love. Why? Because he knew that some of these Yahud who were treacherous, who were, they were trying to undermine Islam, they were trying to break Islam. He knew that if they were alive, right, they were bringing more and more azab upon themselves in the akhirah. So it was better for them to die than to be alive. Please recite a salawat. Prophet had to enforce laws. He had to enforce the hudud of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was a prophet of mercy. He was a prophet of love. He was a prophet of kindness. But if someone did something wrong, if they broke the hudud of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there was a punishment for that as well in the city of Medina. Now, even that punishment was an act of love. You may ask yourself that how can a punishment be an act of love? When you take your child to the dentist, when you take your child to get a shot, when you take your child to get a vaccine, right? Child cries, child suffers, child gets hurt, child doesn't want to go, but you take him, right? And that is an act of love. Why? Because you know that this action is better for the child in the long run. When the child does something wrong, you say, for example, that child doesn't put away his toys. He plays with them, he doesn't clean them up, and so you say, for example, that, okay, now we are not going to get to play with our toys. The child breaks a toy. You say, okay, for example, now, child, you don't have a toy to play with. I'm not going to get you another toy because you broke this one. That's the punishment. Right? It's a natural punishment. That punishment that you're giving that child is also an act of love, or it should be. Right? It should be at its core. If you are setting a rule, if you're setting a discipline, if you're setting a punishment for the child, that is also an act of love. Why? Because you're trying to reform the child. You're trying to bring him, trying to fix his behavior. So even that punishment of the Holy Prophet is an act of love. Please recite salawat. So pay attention to this. Okay? What is the point we're trying to make? One of the secrets of the sirat of the Holy Prophet was what? That he had a deep, intense love and care for all of mankind. All of insan. Whether they were Muslim or whether they were not Muslim yet, whether they were kuffar or whether they were Muslim, whether they were his followers or not. See, when we look at ourselves, this is the difference between us and the Prophet. Right? This is where we can learn. This is where we can grow. When we think about our guidance, when we think about our hidayat, when we think about our akhirah, who are we thinking about? Thinking about, first and foremost, myself, right? Thinking about myself. I hope I have a good akhirah. After ourselves, who are we thinking about? Right? Probably not our parents, but rather our children. Not our siblings, we say our children, right? I'm concerned about my child staying on Sirat al-Mustaqim. After our children, who do we care about? First about ourselves. Secondly, about our children. After that, okay, this kind of gets a little bit weaker after that. We say, okay, inshallah, our brothers and sisters, hopefully they're guided, Our community members, inshallah, they find hidayat, they're on the right path. Okay, it's a little bit weaker at that point, right? You're like, okay, we wish the best for you. I wish the best for myself, right? You wish well for me. I wish well for you. But at the end of the day, do I really care? It's a question we have to ask ourselves. If you have a problem in your life, if I have a problem in my life, a real problem, at the deepest level, do you care? Right? If you have a problem in your life, a real difficulty, if you're going through a problem with your marriage, if you're close to divorce, if you're in financial difficulty, if you have a psychological problem, if you have a health issue, do I care? Do I really care? Right? Maybe not. What was it about the Holy Prophet? Quran says, لَأَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ أَنْ لَا يَكُونَ مُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala consoles the Prophet in the Quran. It says, what? That you, O Prophet, it is as if you are going to die out of your care for the people, that they become mu'mineen. You have so much care, so much grief, so much concern for the people around you that it is as if you are close to death. This is what? Holy Quran. Who's saying this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. About who? The Prophet. Saying that, O Holy Prophet, it is as if you are close to death because of how much grief you carry for who? For the people, for the insan, for mankind. Why? Because you want for them to be guided, because you want for them to be successful, because you don't want them to suffer in the akhirah, because you want them to be Muslims, because you want them to have a good life, because you want them to have hidayat. So what? You almost die. But then what does God say? He says that you cannot guide every single person, O Muhammad. Realize this, that the hidayat of everyone is not in your hands. You do what you need to do, you care for them, you show them the way, but that ultimate hidayat is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even you, Holy Prophet, even you cannot guide every insan, although you want to, although you care about them so much. Please recite salawat. Please recite one more salawat. Holy Prophet says, Ma udiya nabiyyun mithla ma udhitu. That, and this is another narration about the Holy Prophet in which he says that no Nabi, no Rasul has been bothered as much as I have been bothered. Right? Nobody. No Nabi, 124,000 prophets, nobody suffered, nobody udhitu, right? It comes from the word aziyat. In Farsi, aziyat means to be bothered. Right? It says nobody has been bothered the way that I have been bothered. No Nabi. Not Prophet Nuh, not Ibrahim, not Musa, not Isa. You might ask yourself that why? Why is the Prophet saying this? There's a really beautiful explanation that is given by Imam Khomeini regarding the Holy Prophet. He says that, you see, if you know that something is wrong, right? Because the Quran says that, in fact, it says all of the Anbiya, all of the Awliya, they will go through difficulty in their lives. Every prophet, every Nabi, he will face difficulty from his followers. All of the A'imma, they faced what? Difficulty. They faced Battamizi. They faced hardship. From who? From the people. They didn't want to follow them. They cursed them. They said, this person is kafir. This person is saying the wrong thing. This person is misguided. Every single Nabi, every Imam faced the same thing. Prophet says, nobody faced as much difficulty as me. Okay, why? Because if you know something is wrong, right? If you know the consequences of an action, you will be bothered by it. Okay? Please recite a salawat. Okay. Now, if you know that something is wrong, if you know that someone is going down the wrong path, that he's wasting his life, that she's wasting her life, that she's going into, God forbid, right, something wrong, some wrong behavior, you're 100% sure that that is wrong, and you're going to care a lot about that person. You're going to say, I don't want this person to do that. If, for example, you know at work that, okay, you have someone, you know that if this person does this action, he's going to get fired, right? Then you're going to try to stop him. You're going to care. Why? Because you know. You have that deep yaqeen, that deep marifah. Now, if you don't know what's going to happen to somebody, right? If you're not sure, then you may not care, right? You may not be concerned about him. What does Imam Khomeini say about the Holy Prophet? He says that whoever perceives the jalalat, right? The jalal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whoever has a greater marifah of the akhirah, of the basharat, that is promised to the mu'mineen and the azab that is promised to those who do bad. Whoever has a higher understanding of that, whoever understands that at a higher level, whoever has a higher spiritual maqam, he will be the most bothered when people are disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you and I, we are not that bothered because we don't have that marifa. We don't understand that jalal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? We don't understand the reality of what happens to somebody in the akhirah. Right? Someone who does something wrong. Right? Even one ghiba. Right? What is that hadith? Al-ghiba ashaddu min az-zina. To do one ghiba of a mu'min, right, in the eyes of what? Not from who? Right? Not a scholar, from the imam. It says that ghiba is worse than zina. Right? To do zina, something like, oh, we wouldn't think of that. Now, what does imam say? Ghiba is worse than that. Right? Because why? Because perhaps you will be forgiven for zina. But ghiba, you won't be forgiven until you seek, and that person has forgiven you. Right? Because it's haqqun nas. You took somebody's haqq, you ruined their reputation, you ruined their name. Right? Now that person has to forgive you. Okay. So we don't see the marifa of these things, and therefore we are not bothered. The Prophet had that marifa more than any Nabi, any of the awliya at the highest level. And so therefore he was bothered. Where did this care for people come from? Right? There's a verse of Quran that says, وَلَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. There has come to you a Rasul min anfusikum, azizun alayhi ma anittum. What does this mean? There has come to you a messenger, O people, that, first of all, it says min anfusikum. What does that mean? That means there's come to you a messenger from yourselves. This is a very delicate expression now. What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying? Each word in the Holy Quran, right, if you look at the scholars of tafsir, each word, they analyze this. They say, what could this mean? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use this phrase, Ja'akum Rasulun min anfusikum? He could have just said, Ja'akum Rasulun. He could have said that there's come to you a messenger. But he said, no, there's come to you a messenger from amongst yourselves. What does that mean? One explanation is this, that the Holy Prophet, right, was a man from the people, with the people, for the people. Meaning what? Meaning that he lived amongst them. He ate and drank food with them. He had a relationship with the people. He cared about the people. And therefore, because they knew that he cared about them, he was able to change them. Why? Because they knew that he cared. Right? If I come to you and I tell you something and I say, hey, I think you should change this. But you think that I'm just saying it for myself, right? I'm saying it for some other reason. I'm saying it for this, for that, fulan. Then maybe you'll say, okay, maybe I'll follow it, maybe I won't. But if you know that, number one, I know what is good for you, and number two, that I care about you. At the deepest level, I care about your well-being. I care about your success. I care about your happiness. I care about your health. If you know that I care and I spend time with you, I eat with you, I know your problems, I've shared my problems with you, you shared your problems with me, I lived amongst you. لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ. There's a Rasul who is from you. Right? Then, right, when that person tries to help you, you will listen to him. You'll say, okay, there's something here. Maybe I should take this person's opinion into consideration. Okay. Azizun alayhi ma anittum. It is very difficult for him, again, saying the same thing. What you do, these actions that you're committing in your life, it's very difficult for the Prophet. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that what he sees you, Muslim, non-Muslim, insan, what he sees you doing, it's hurting him. Right? It's breaking the heart of the Holy Prophet. right? It's killing him inside. He has so much grief that he almost died. Harisun alaykum, right? He is haris for you. Haris meaning what? Greedy. Right? Greedy in what sense? Not in a material sense. Greedy, harisun alaykum. He's greedy for you. He cares for you, right? He's got so much love for you, so much care for you. And this is how we have to look at Ahlul Bayt. That when they are giving us, when they are teaching us that, for example, show respect to your parents, right? There's something in that. It's not that Imam Ali is not saying that for himself, right? He's not saying so that his son can respect him. He's saying that so that there's something for that in you. Right? You have to look at the words, the aqwal of Ahlul Bayt like this, right? That there's something in it that the Prophet is giving us, Ahlul Bayt are giving us. We have to listen with attention. We have to read. We have to understand that this is something for me. Please recite as salawats. Okay, so there's a narration, right, that says that كان رسول الله إذا فقد الرجل من إخوانه ثلاثة أيام سأل عنه وإن كان غائبا دعا له وإن كان شاهدا زاره وإن كان مريضا عاده. Look at the character of the Holy Prophet, right? Look at his care. It says that, according to this narration, that whenever one of the Holy Prophet's friends amongst the Muslims, right? Look at this. Whenever one of his friends, he didn't see him for 3 days, didn't see him. Of course, like time was different at that time. People lived maybe closer. There was no phones, right? They kind of saw each other more often. Say that when the Prophet didn't see someone for 3 days, what would he do? He would try to ask about him. He would send someone, say, go check on this person. Is he okay? Right? They're doing okay? Okay. فَإِذَا كَانَ غَائِبًا دَعَا لَهُ. And if he wasn't present, then number one, he would pray for him. And if he found him, then he would visit him. If he was present around the Prophet somewhere in that city, then he would try to visit him. وَإِنْ كَانَ مَرِيدًا عَادَهُ. And if he was sick, he would visit him. Right? For 3 days. Right? If you didn't hear from someone, if you didn't know the whereabouts of someone for 3 days. Now, does that mean that in our life today, okay, every 3 days we have to do this like a machine? No, I'm not saying like every 3 days you go through your phone book, you say, call this person. No. Right? That's not what I'm trying to say. Right? But realize, right, the idea that the Prophet is putting forward. Right? Have you ever checked on somebody? Have you ever reached out to somebody without any reason? Say like, I don't want something from you. I'm not trying to like ask you a question. I'm not trying to like get into a business deal with you. I'm not trying to like, talk to you so that I can laugh about something. Right? I'm just calling you because I care about you. I'm just sending you a text message. I just want to see how you're doing. Right? You know how powerful that is? Right? Just this. Right? This is what the Prophet did. Sent a message to someone saying, hey, I just want to see how you are. Right? Everything okay? Like, are you doing okay? Right? Just that. Try this. Right? Try it with one person. Try it with 2 people. Right? See what a difference it can make in somebody's life. Right? Prophet visited people with no reason. Right? وَمَنْ زَارَهُ فِي اللَّهِ. Right? He would visit people just for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is my brother in deen. No reason. Not for the food, not for the company, not for because, this person can teach me something. No reason. Just because he cared about that person. Right? See where that got him. Please recite his salawat. All of these things in Islam, they come from a position of care. They come from all the teachings of Islam. Not all of them, but many of them. When we think about Amr bil Ma'ruf, when we think about this, right, it comes from a place of love, right, a place of care about somebody, not to put them down, right? If someone is doing something wrong, I'm doing Amr bil Maruf. My job is not to say this to you so that I feel better. And I feel more arrogant that, look, I knew this guy. He didn't know. So let me tell him what he's doing wrong. And no, that's not Amr bil Maruf. Right? That's not going to change anyone. Right? Tell him for the sake of him. Right? You want to help them. And that is Amr bil Maruf. Okay. So now, right? Look at the care of the Holy Prophet, right? Look at the care of the Prophet. Right? When they leave the Battle of Uhud, Prophet tells his followers that, what do you think we should do? He gets their opinion. Right? And we'll talk a little bit about this later, but he asks people, what should we do? So they come up with a strategy to defend themselves in the Battle of Uhud. And he tells one group of people that, look, we are going to be fighting over here, but you guys are you guys are archers. You guys stand over here. Now, your job is to defend the Muslims from this side. But whatever you do, you guys are archers, so don't leave your post because we're going to be fighting the main battle over here. But if you leave this, then they can attack us from behind. So your job is just stay here, shoot arrows from here. So what happens? The battle goes on, and they begin to fight the Kuffar, the Quraysh, and eventually the Muslims are winning, right? And they are succeeding in this battle. And eventually what happens? Well, as the Muslims are winning, the archers see that Muslims are winning. And guess what? There's a lot of valuable equipment lying over there, right? As they say. So what do? Although the Prophet told them very clearly, you have one job. Don't leave from your post. If you leave from here, that will be destruction for us. But they see, right, this material wealth, and so what do? They leave. Right? They start running towards that direction. Why? Because they wanted to get that for themselves. They didn't know after the battle, is the Prophet going to keep this for himself? Is he going to give it to someone? Let's get it for ourselves. So they leave. Now what happens is that the Quraysh, they start attacking from that side. Right? They go from behind. They start attacking the Muslims. In that scrum, right, even the Prophet gets hurt. Even they hit the Prophet. They say that the Prophet's, one of his teeth gets knocked out. In that scrum, someone announces that Prophet has died. Right? So there's confusion, there's chaos. Although the Prophet was alive, he wasn't dead, but they wanted to create chaos. Eventually, right, by the end of this, right, the Muslims take, right, heavy losses. Right? All because what? The people did not listen to the Holy Prophet. So who comes to the Holy Prophet? It was Omar, right? The second Khalifa, he comes and he says that, Prophet, right, I want you to do one thing. Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, the Quran, it says, وَقَالَ نُوحٌ رَبِّي لَا تَذَرْ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ دَيَّارًا. Right? Prophet Nuh's dua is what? Do not leave, oh Allah, don't leave a single one of the kuffar on the earth. So Omar comes to the Prophet. He says, don't you remember Prophet Nuh said this? Can you pray against, right, our qawm? Pray against our people. Right? Why did you guys do this? Right? Why did you abandon me? So Omar says what? He says, pray against them. Just like what? Prophet Nuh. He said that, right, these people have bothered me so much that he makes this dua to God against them. Prophet says what? Allahumma ghfir li qawmi fa innahum la ya'lamun. May God forgive my people because they don't know. He says no. Right? Prophet Nuh, maybe on his time, right, there was something. There was a hikmat, he prayed against his people. Did Rasulullah ever pray against his own people? No. Right? He prayed for them. Right? Please recite us up. Right? So this is the wrapping it up and now going towards the Masa'ib, that the message of the Holy Prophet. And one of the aspects of his character was what? Right? His deep love. His deep love for all people. Right? Everyone. Every single insan. No matter if they were practicing, not practicing, right? No matter what they had done in their life, right? The Prophet said, come. Come. If you are a person who wants to follow the truth, then come. Right? You have a space here. Right? If you want to follow the Safina of Imam al-Hussein, then this is what our Majlis should be as well. Anyone, right? Anyone who wants to experience the message of Hussein, right? They're welcome. Right? Doesn't matter what you have done in your life, doesn't matter who you are today, doesn't matter what you did today, doesn't matter how old you are, right? It's welcome. Anyone is welcome. Safinatul Hussein awsa'u wa asra. That Safina of Hussein is broader than any ship. Right? All of the Imams, all of the Anbiya, they are Safinatul Najat. Walakin Safinatul Hussein awsa'u wa asra. Right? Wherever you are in your life, come. And this message is not for just us. It is for anyone. Come and listen. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdillah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bi finaik. Alayka minni salamullahi abadan ma baqit wa baqiya al-layl wan-nahar. ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين بأبي أنت وأمي يا أبا عبد الله. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز معكم. Tonight is the night of the 8th of Muharram. The days of Azah are slowly coming to an end. Tomorrow night we will remember the sacrifice of Hazrat Abbas. And then after that we will remember that 6-month-old infant Aliyun al-Asghar. And the day after that we will remember the sacrifice of Hussein. And after that we will cry for that little daughter of Hussein, the one who looked for Hussein in the Maidan of Karbala. But tonight we want to remember that Shaheed who was known as Shabi of Rasulullah. That when people looked at him, they say that he resembled Rasulullah khulqan wa khalqan wa mantiqan. That not only in his appearance did he look like Rasulullah, but also in his actions he acted like Rasulullah. Also when he spoke, the people of Medina thought that this is the speech of Rasulullah. He was known as Qurrat Ayn al-Rasul, ay Ali al-Akbar. They say that if you want to see the Prophet, look at Ali al-Akbar. Someone comes to Imam Zain al-Abidin. They say that, oh Imam, in Shaan they go to Zain al-Abidin. They say, oh Imam, out of all of the Masa'ib, which one was the most difficult for Hussein to bear? You may think that Imam Zain al-Abidin said that it was the musibah of Hazrat Sakina, that little girl who looked for her Baba in the Maidan of Karbala. Maybe it was that son of Hussein Ali al-Asghar whose tongue went from one side to another looking for water. Maybe it was that son of his brother Hassan, that 13-year-old boy Qasim, that one whose body was trampled while he was still alive. But instead, Imam Zain al-Abidin begins to cry. He says that out of all of the shuhada, the one who was shaheed, who was most difficult for Hussein, was not Qasim. It was not Ali al-Asghar. It was that young son of Hussein, Ali al-Akbar. That was the most difficult musibah for Hussein. कोई इमाम ज़ैन अल-आबिदीन के पास आता है, कहता है ए मौला, सब शुहदा में किसकी मुसीबत सबसे मुश्किल थी हुसैन के लिए? इमाम ज़ैन अल-आबिदीन अपना सर नीचे करके कहते हैं, सब शुहदा में से एक मुसीबत सबसे मुश्किल थी मौला के लिए, और वो अली अल-अकबर की शहादत थी। एक के बाद एक सब शुहदा मौला के पास आए, सब ने इजाजत मांगी, मैं भी जंग के लिए जा सकता हूँ? ایک کے بعد ایک حسین نے سب کو اجازت دی، لیکن ایک تنہا شہید تھا جس نے حسین نے کہا تقدم یا بنیا، چلے جاؤ میرے بیٹے، اب یہ وقت آ گیا، میدان میں چلے جاؤ، جنگ کا وقت آ گیا۔ ایک کے بعد ایک سب چلے گئے، سب نے ایک شہید بھیجا۔ زینب نے عمر محمد کو میدان میں بھیجا، کلثوم نے عباس کو بھیجا، فروہ نے قاسم کو بھیجا، تو حسین نے کسی کو بھی بھیجا۔ حسین نے علی اکبر اپنے نوجوان بیٹے کو بھیجا۔ حسین اکبر سے ملتے ہیں، گلے لپٹتے ہیں، علی اکبر جاتے ہیں میدان میں، بس حسین raises his hands to the heavens. He says, "Oh Allah, before I send this boy to the Maidan, bear witness to these ashqiya that the boy I am sending you to his death resembles Rasulullah in every way. اے خدا تو ہی گواہی دے کہ یہ بچہ جو میں میدان میں بھیج رہا ہوں یہ شبیہ رسول اللہ ہے، ہر طرح سے یہ شبیہ رسول اللہ ہے۔ بس علی اکبر میدان میں جاتے ہیں، جنگ کرتے ہیں۔ روایت میں آتی ہے کہ ایک کے بعد ایک اشقیاء کو جہنم میں بھیجتے ہیں، بڑی شجاعت دکھاتے ہیں۔ تھوڑی دیر بعد علی اکبر واپس آتے ہیں حسین کے پاس، کہتے ہیں بابا جان آپ نے میرا جہاد دیکھا، لیکن بابا جان العطش قد قتلنی، اے بابا جان میں تو بھوک اور پیاس سے مر رہا ہوں، فہل شربت من ماء، بابا جان کچھ پانی ہے اس خیمے میں جو میں پی سکتا ہوں؟ حسین کہتے ہیں اے میرے بیٹا تم جانتے ہو اس میدان میں کچھ پانی نہیں رہ گیا ہے، اور جب تم واپس جاؤ گے جنگ میں تو اصغر کا بھوک اور پیاس ضرور یاد کرنا ہے، سکینہ کا بھوک اور پیاس یاد کرو۔ حسین جی ایک کام کرتے ہیں، کہتے ہیں یہ انگوٹھی میرے ہاتھ سے لے لو، اپنے منہ میں ڈالو، شاید اس انگوٹھی کی وجہ سے تمہاری بھوک اور پیاس بجھ جائے گی، لیکن تھوڑی دیر میں آپ کے جد رسول اللہ ابھی آپ کا استقبال کریں گے جنت میں۔ علی اکبر گھوڑے پہ سوار ہوتے ہیں، حسین الوداع آخری بار کہتے ہیں، علی اکبر میدان کی طرف بھاگتے ہیں، لیکن ان کے پیچھے کچھ آواز آ رہی ہے۔ علی اکبر موڑ کے دیکھتے ہیں ان کے بابا حسین ان کے پیچھے بھاگ رہے ہیں، پھر سے گلے لپٹتے ہیں حسین سے، کہتے ہیں اے بابا جان آپ نے تو مجھے بھیجا ہے جہاد کے لیے، آپ کیوں میرے پیچھے آ رہے ہیں؟ کہتے ہیں اے میرے بیٹے اکبر میں نے تو بھیجا ہے تم کو، جاؤ جہاد کے لیے جاؤ، لیکن تھوڑی دیر بعد واپس موڑ کے مجھے دیکھو کیونکہ میں چاہتا ہوں کہ آپ کو دیکھیں۔ بس علی اکبر جنگ کے لیے جاتا ہے، ایک کے بعد ایک اشقیاء کو مارتا ہے۔ ایک شقی جس کا نام مرہ ہے وہ ایک نیزہ پھینکتا ہے علی اکبر کی طرف، بس یہ نیزہ آتا ہے، نیزہ جا کر کے علی کے جگر اور قلب پہ لگ جاتی ہے۔ علی اکبر کوشش کرتا ہے اس نیزے کو نکالنے کے لیے، لیکن اسی وقت پیچھے سے ایک ہی اشقیاء آتا ہے، اکبر کے سر پہ ضربت لگاتا ہے، بس خون نکلنے لگتا ہے علی کے سر سے، علی گر جاتا ہے گھوڑے سے، کہتا ہے یا ابتا علیک منی السلام، اے بابا جان یہ میری آخری سلام تجھ پہ۔ حسین یہ سن کے حیران ہوتا ہے، بھاگتے ہیں علی اکبر کی طرف، بھاگتے بھاگتے روایت میں آتی ہے کہ حسین کرم ریت پہ گر جاتے ہیں، پوچھتے ہیں واہ علی اے میرے بیٹے علی، بھاگتے بھاگتے گر جاتے ہیں۔ بس حسین جب لاشیں علی اکبر پہ پہنچتے ہیں تو ایک عجیب منظر نظر آتی ہے، جب حسین لاشیں اکبر پہ پہنچتے ہیں تو دیکھتے ہیں کہ علی اکبر کی بدن اس طرف اور اس طرف تڑپ رہی ہے۔ دوسری چیز وہ دیکھتے ہیں کہ زینب پہنچ چکی ہے اس بدن پہ اور گریہ کر رہی ہے علی اکبر کے بدن پہ۔ حسین کہتے ہیں زینب میری بہن واپس چلی جاؤ خیمے میں۔ حسین اپنی بہن کو واپس بھیجتے ہیں، اب حسین اپنے بیٹے کے ساتھ اکیلے بیٹھے ہیں، گریہ کرنے لگتے ہیں۔ وہ حمید ابن مسلم روایت میں کہتے ہیں کہ جب حسین تنہا بیٹھے ہوئے تھے علی الاکبر کے ساتھ، تو اتنی زور زور سے گریہ کرنے لگے کہ جو اشقیاء اس کے اطراف تھے وہ بھی اس منظر کو دیکھ کے وہ بھی گریہ کرنے لگے. بس ہم کہیں گے اے حسین، چند گھنٹے میں جب آپ اکیلے لیٹے ہوں گے میدان کربلا میں، جب آپ گرم ریت میں لیٹے ہوں گے، تو آپ کے لیے کون آئے گا، کون گریہ کرے گا آپ کے لیے؟ اے حسین علی لعنت اللہ علی القوم الظالمین. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنقَلِبٍ يَنقَلِبُونَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ راجعون. رضا بقضائه وتسليما لأمره. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. پروردگار بحق محمد، بحق فاطمہ، بحق علی، بحق Hassan, بحق Hussein. All of those mu'mineen or mu'minat who are suffering from difficulty, illness, disability, problems with their health, please give them shifa kamil or ajil. All those mu'mineen or mu'minat who are suffering in their relationships with their children, their parents, their brother, their sister, their family members, please bring their hearts back together and mend their relationship. All those mu'mineen and mu'minat who are having difficulty finding halal income, halal rizq, please provide for them from your rizq al-wasi'. Wal-akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Matam Hussein.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. میرا نانا نبی، میرے ماں سیدہ، میرا بابا علی، میرا بھائی حسن، ہمی ہے پنجتن، ہمی ہے پنجتن. میری کیا ہے خطا، میری کیا ہے خطا، میری کیا ہے خطا، میری کیا ہے خطا. مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں. مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں. کیا میں سارا کا جایا نہیں ہوں، کیا میں سارا کا جایا نہیں ہوں، کیا میں سارا کا جایا نہیں ہوں، کیا نبی کا نواسا نہیں ہوں. مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں. مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں. میرے نانا نے کلمہ سکھایا اور قرآن تم کو سنایا. میرے نانا نے کلمہ سکھایا اور قرآن تم کو سنایا. کیا میں نانا کا سایہ نہیں ہوں، کیا میں نانا کا سایہ نہیں ہوں، کیا میں نانا کا سایہ نہیں ہوں، کیا نبی کا نواسا نہیں ہوں. مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ وہ مدینہ جہاں میرا گھر ہے اور مسجد میں اس گھر کا گھر ہے، وہ مدینہ جہاں میرا گھر ہے اور مسجد میں اس گھر کا گھر ہے، کیا میں اس گھر میں کھیلا نہیں ہوں؟ کیا میں اس گھر میں کھیلا نہیں ہوں؟ کیا میں اس گھر میں کھیلا نہیں ہوں؟ کیا نبی کا نواسا نہیں ہوں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ چکیاں پیس کر ماں نے پالا، مجھے نانا نے جھولا جھولایا، چکیاں پیس کر ماں نے پالا، مجھ کو نانا نے جھولا جھولایا، اپنا بچپن میں بھولا نہیں ہوں، اپنا بچپن میں بھولا نہیں ہوں، اپنا بچپن میں بھولا نہیں ہوں، کیا نبی کا نواسا نہیں ہوں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ کملی والے کے لب چومتا تھا، کتنا پیارا میرا بچپنا تھا، کملی والے کے لب چومتا تھا، کتنا پیارا میرا بچپنا تھا، کیا میں ان کا دلارا نہیں ہوں؟ کیا میں ان کا دلارا نہیں ہوں؟ کیا میں ان کا دلارا نہیں ہوں؟ کیا نبی کا نواسا نہیں ہوں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ میں جو پانی کبھی مانگتا تھا، کتنی تڑپتی تھی ماں اب میں سمجھا، میں جو مانگتا تھا کیوں تڑپتی تھی میں اب میں سمجھا، پاس اصغر کے جاتا نہیں ہوں، پاس اصغر کے جاتا نہیں ہوں، پاس اصغر کے جاتا نہیں ہوں، کیا نبی کا نواسا نہیں ہوں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ مجھ پہ کیوں بند کرتے ہو پانی، کیا محمد کا پیارا نہیں ہوں؟ یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین، زخم دل کے دکھاؤں میں کیسے، تیرا لاشا اٹھاؤں میں کیسے، اکبر میرا سحر والا، اکبر 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 اکبر لاش اکبر پہ شاہ جب پہنچے، دل کو ہاتھوں سے تھام کر بولے، تیری فرقت نے اے علی اکبر آگ دل میں میرے لگا دی ہے، آگ دل کی بجھاؤں میں کیسے، آگ دل کی بجھاؤں میں کیسے، تیرا لاشا اٹھاؤں میں کیسے اکبر میرا سحر والا اکبر اکبر میرا سحر والا اکبر تو ہے کڑیل جوان ہے بیٹا باپ تیرا ضعیف ہے کتنا نور آنکھوں کا ہو گیا رخسار مجھ کو آتا نہیں نظر خیمے میں لے کے خیمے میں جاؤں میں کیسے لے کے خیمے میں جاؤں میں کیسے تیرا لاشا اٹھاؤں میں کیسے اکبر میرا سحر والا اکبر 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 جس نے 18 سال پالا تھا کیسے دیکھے گی وہ تیرا لاشا تیری شادی کا تھا جسے ارماں کیسے جیلے گی وہ تیرا صدمہ تیری ماں کو بتاؤں میں کیسے تیری ماں کو بتاؤں میں کیسے تیرا لاشا اٹھاؤں میں کیسے اکبر میرا سحر والا اکبر اکبر سحر والا اکبر دیکھ آیا ہے قاصد صغرا راہ تکتی ہے وہ دکھی بہنا تجھ کو بیمار نے بلایا ہے وعدہ صغرا کا کیوں بلا ڈالا غم یہ دل سے لگاؤں میں کیسے غم یہ دل سے لگاؤں میں کیسے تیرا لاشا اٹھاؤں میں کیسے اکبر میرا سحر والا اکبر اکبر والا اکبر بھائی بہنوں کا ہے عجب رشتہ جس کا ثانی کہیں نہیں ملتا رو کے صغرا نے یہ لکھا اکبر ایک دکھیا کی لاج رکھ لینا مر گیا تو بتاؤں میں کیسے مر گیا تو بتاؤں میں کیسے اکبر میرا سحر والا اکبر اکبر میرا سحر والا اکبر اکبر میرا سحر والا اکبر ایسی غربت میں منہ نہیں موڑو میں ہوں تنہا مجھے نہ یوں چھوڑو کیا گزرتی ہے باپ کے دل پر غم زدہ دل کو یوں نہیں توڑو اپنی غربت بتاؤں میں کیسے اپنی غربت بتاؤں میں کیسے تیرا لاشا اٹھاؤں میں کیسے اکبر میرا سحر والا اکبر اکبر میرا سحر والا اکبر اکبر میرا سحر والا یا حسین 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 یا علی پہلے صغرا کو مدینے سے بلا لو بیٹا پہلے صغرا کو مدینے سے بلا
ڈالو بیٹا علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ 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 بیٹا تیری شادی کا ہے ارمان بڑا زینب کو ہر گھڑی رہتا ہے بس دھیان تیرا زینب کو تم بکھر جاؤ گے معلوم نہ تھا زینب کو تم بچھڑ جاؤ گے معلوم نہ تھا زینب کو تم بچھڑ جاؤ گے معلوم نہ تھا زینب کو غمزدہ زینب ذیشاں کو مناؤ بیٹا علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا تجھ سے چھٹ کر تیری ماں چین نہیں پائے گی زندگی بھر تیری صورت کو ترس جائے گی تیری فرقت میں اسے نیند کہاں آئے گی تیری فرقت میں اسے نیند کہاں آئے گی تیری فرقت میں اسے نیند کہاں آئے گی کیسے جی پائے گی دکھیاری بتاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا احمد مرسل اعظم کی شباہت تم ہو باد عباس سے جری میری بضاعت تم ہو سچ تو یہ ہے میری آنکھوں کی بصارت تم ہو سچ تو یہ ہے میری آنکھوں کی بصارت تم ہو سچ تو یہ ہے میری آنکھوں کی بشارت تم ہو لہن احمد میں اذان دے کے سناؤ بیٹا علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا زندگی بھر تیری فرقت مجھے تڑ پائے گی اب خوشی لوٹ کے اس گھر میں نہیں آئے گی ساتھ تیرے میری بینائی چلے جائے گی ساتھ تیرے میری بینائی چلے جائے گی ساتھ تیرے میری بینائی چلے جائے گی اپنی صورت مجھے ایک بار دکھاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا جو میرے دل پر گزرتی ہے بتاؤں کیسے زخم سینے کا تیرے لال چھپاؤں کیسے
میں ضعیفی میں جواں لاش اٹھاؤں کیسے، میں ضعیفی میں جواں لاش اٹھاؤں کیسے، میں ضعیفی میں جواں لاش اٹھاؤں کیسے، میری غربت پہ ذرا رحم تو کھاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر، ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر، ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا، پیر کھائے گا میری گود کپالا اصغر، اب کوئی دم میں ہو جاؤ گا تنہا اکبر، تھم کر ٹوٹی کمر کہتے تھے سرور مظہر، تھم کر ٹوٹی کمر کہتے تھے سرور مظہر، تھم کر ٹوٹی کمر کہتے تھے سرور مظہر، اپنے پیشانی پر صحرا تو سجاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر، ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر، ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا علی اکبر، ابھی میدان میں نہ جاؤ بیٹا، یا حسین 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 حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، سب پڑھیں، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، اس ضعیفی میں میرا اکبر جواں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، ایک بیٹے سے جڑی تھی ماں کی ساری کائنات، ایک بیٹے سے جڑی تھی ماں کی ساری کائنات، آج لیلا کے لیے سارا جہاں مارا گیا، ساتھ تھے لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، غمزدہ بھائی زمین کو دیکھتا ہی رہ گیا، غمزدہ بھائی زمین کو دیکھتا ہی رہ گیا، جب یہ قاتل نے کہا
اکبر یہاں مارا گیا، سانپ سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا۔ ہائے غربت 3 دن کی پیاس کا مارا ہوا، ہائے غربت 3 دن کی پیاس کا مارا ہوا، نہر اور خیموں کے بالکل درمیان مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا۔ اب دعاؤں سے کوئی لیلا کا ناتا ہی نہیں، اب دعاؤں سے کوئی لیلا کا ناتا ہی نہیں، جس کو جینے کی دعا دیتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا۔ ایک نظر قاصد کو دیکھا اور اکبر سو گئے، ایک نظر قاصد کو دیکھا اور اکبر سو گئے، آمد مہماں ہوئی اور میزباں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا۔ اہل غم سینوں پہ اکبر ہاتھ اپنے مار کر، اہل غم سینوں پہ اکبر ہاتھ اپنے مار کر، کہہ رہے ہیں ظلم کا نیزہ یہاں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا۔ اس ضعیفی میں میرا اکبر جواں مارا گیا، لاش سے لپٹی ہوئی کہتی تھی ماں مارا گیا، یا حسین 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 یا محمد والے محمد صلوات
توجہ زیارہ۔ بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم، السلام علیکہ یا نبی اللہ یا رسول اللہ، السلام علیکہ یا خدیجة الکبریٰ ام المؤمنین، السلام علیکہ یا فاطمة الزہراء سیدۃ نساء العالمین، السلام علیکہ یا امیر المؤمنین علی بن ابی طالب، السلام علیکہ یا حسن بن علی المجتبی، السلام علیکہ یا ابا عبداللہ یا حسین بن علی الشہید بکربلا، السلام علی الحسین
وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليكم جميع شهداء كربلاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الجواد. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري. السلام عليك يا حجة صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أعوانك وأنصارك والمستشهدين بين يديك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك حجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آله في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.